Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Welcome to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Jesus is coming soon. Every day we are looking at some of the signs that are happening around us. In this episode, we are going to see the signs in Israel.
On November 14, 2019, Israel and Palestinian militants in Gaza confirmed a ceasefire, though rockets are still sporadically firing into the Jewish state.
After more than 2 full days, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, that is PIJ, has fired more than 450 rockets and counting into Israel. The onslaught injured more than 60 Israelites and damaged several buildings.
The Iron Dome aerial defense system intercepted 90% of the rockets that were headed toward Israeli neighborhoods and schools, the Israel Defense Forces reported.
More than 60 people have been treated for injuries since November 12, 2019. 2 men were lightly injured by shrapnel, and on November 13, 2019, a 70-year-old woman in Ashkelon was moderately hurt by glass when a rocket exploded through her window. Dozens of others were treated for anxiety or injuries sustained while scrambling for shelter. After taking a direct hit from a rocket, a factory in southern Israel was burned in a fire. 3 homes in Israel also took direct hits. The woman in Ashkelon was hurt, but the other 2 homes were empty when the rocket struck. The Jewish state never takes rocket attacks lying down, insisting it has the right to defend itself against attacks. The military has conducted several counter-strikes, depleting the Palestinian terrorists' weapons stash and eliminating PIJ targets, including military and training compounds and rocket production and storage sites. The IDF also resumed its policy from the 2014 war in Gaza of conducting targeted killings that take out chief terror commanders, including the commander of the PIJ in Gaza and a rocket commander. The ceasefire was agreed on November 14, 2019 at 5:30, though more projectiles have sporadically been fired into Israel since then. The PIJ reportedly agreed to halt the rocket fire and restrain violence in the weekly Gaza border protests in exchange for the IDF halting its targeted killings of terror commanders and using restrained riot dispersal methods at the border protests. This ceasefire, like most others, was brokered by the mediators from Egypt and the United Nations. Though the bombardment has slowed significantly since the announcement of the ceasefire, schools and non-essential businesses in southern Israel were closed on November 14, 2019, and the military still has the region on high alert. Since November 12, 2019, life for the people of Israel has been put on halt as schools, businesses and roads have been closed and public transportation disrupted. The IDF views the past 48 plus hours as a military victory that achieved all its objectives quickly and fully, the IDF spokesperson said. Israel has achieved the objectives of the operation, an Israeli official told the Times of Israel. Islamic Jihad was significantly damaged. We destroyed many infrastructures and over 20 terrorists were thwarted. Dubbed Operation Black Belt by the military, this week's clash with Gaza served to differentiate the 2 main terror entities operating in the Strip, Hamas and PIJ.
Prior to Black Belt, Israel had a policy of holding Hamas, the terror group in political and military control of Gaza, responsible for any terror activity emanating from the enclave. This round, however, was focused entirely on the PIJ, the second largest terror group in Gaza, with Hamas staying out of the conflict.
The Israeli foreign minister saw this as a victory for the Jewish state's policy of deterrence, conducting retaliatory strikes against Hamas anytime Israel was attacked by the terrorists in Gaza.
If Hamas didn't shoot, it's because they fear the results. Foreign Minister Israel Katz told Army Radio, as quoted by the Jerusalem Post. Black Belt began early Tuesday morning when the IDF eliminated the commander of the PIJ in Gaza in what a foreign affairs official called a defensive counter-terrorist action against a ticking bomb. The terror chief was responsible for multiple attempts to kill Israeli civilians and soldiers over the past year and was reportedly planning more attacks in the near future. The Israeli military was reportedly expecting the retaliatory attacks but nonetheless conducted the surgical strike early Tuesday, hitting only the room that PIJ commander Baha Abu al-Atta was sleeping in to neutralize an imminent threat. Al-Atta was described as a ticking bomb by the IDF, and the operation to eliminate him as the threat saved many lives, a foreign ministry official said. Not every Israeli is celebrating the impending end of the current round of conflict. A former defense minister warned that the ceasefire between Israel and the PIJ will not stop another inevitable round of hostilities. The goal of every terror organization is to disrupt daily life, Avigdor Lieberman told Army Radio, quoted by the Times of Israel. And here again we saw a minor organization shut down 1/3 of the country. Today too it's clear to all, the next round of fighting is only a matter of time. The next round of fighting depends on the militants in Gaza, according to the Israeli military. Quiet will be met with quiet, the IDF said. We will continue to protect the people of Israel and are prepared for any threat on all fronts, referring to the imminent threat to Israel's northern border by Iran and its proxies operating in the region. Though the current round of conflict is coming to an end, Israel is still vulnerable to attacks, with enemies on multiple fronts. Join us in standing with the people of Israel by donating to a crisis assistance fund so we can meet critical needs during times of emergency.
And now it's time for trivial question of the day. Where will the 2020 World Expo event will take place?
Option A, Israel. Option B, USA. And option C, UAE.
The right answer after a short break. Welcome back to Science Lab. The science are happening because Lord Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Before the break, I have asked a trivial question of the day. Where will 2020 World Expo will take place?
Option A, Israel. Option B, USA. And option C, UAE.
The right answer is option C, UAE. For most Israelis, the city of Dubai in the United Arab Emirates was nothing more than a lucrative, unattainable vacation destination. The dream, however, might now become a reality. Ynet has learned that as an official host of next year's World Expo event, the Gulf nation is expected to open its gates to Israel tourists in 2020.
The World Expo, an international exhibition designed to showcase achievements of nations, takes place once every 5 years, lasts for up to 6 months, attracts millions of visitors from all over the world, and is considered by many to be the Olympic Games of innovation.
Most of the world's countries take part in the event where they showcase their country's newest innovations, all in order to encourage shared cultural experiences and technological advancements, among other things. In October 2020, the world-famous event will take place in the city of Dubai. the most advanced Arab city in the world, the most populous city in the UAE, and the capital of the Emirate of Dubai, one of the 7 emirates that make up the UAE. Expo 2020 will set up a pavilion where Israel will present its latest achievements in the sphere of innovation and sustainability. Israeli and the UAE's authorities have been in talks for a while in order to allow those with Israeli passports to attend the expo in Dubai. A source within the expo's management team said to Ediot Aronot, "These talks are happening because both sides want to see the expo turn into the biggest exhibition in the world. The UAE invested tremendous amounts of money and thought into the event, and they want Israelis to be welcomed as well." Another source said the expo in Dubai could be a great pilot run during which Israeli tourists would be allowed into the country, and if turns out to be a success, the UAE might leave its doors open to Israeli tourists permanently. "I believe Israelis will come to visit even after the expo," said a senior official in the UAE's Ministry of Tourism. "Even now we have a few Israelis visiting us, and we will be happy to accommodate all Israeli tourists." Even though Israel and the UAE have no official diplomatic relations, the two countries do share economic ties, and Israelis are allowed into the country if they hold a foreign non-Israeli passport or a special visa. As part of the growing relations between the two countries, Israel opened a representation office in the UAE's capital, Abu Dhabi, in 2015 in order to advance technological innovations between the two states. In addition, last year, the UAE officially recognized its small Jewish community as part of Dubai's population. According to an American source affiliated with the UAE authorities of the United Arab Emirates, the country doesn't just want the Israeli tourists, they also want the innovators as well, and are therefore expected to make the process of entering the state much easier to those with Israeli passports.
While there is a sense of peace and security in the Middle East, dozens of Jewish communities around the world have appealed to the Jewish Agency Fund for urgent assistance in securing their facilities in case of attack from terrorists from the extreme right-wing or Islamic groups.
Their request is for defense primarily against incidents of mass shootings. The Jewish Agency says an appeal will have to be made to wealthy Jews to assist in the efforts to answer the growing demand for defense. The agency also expressed the hope that the Israeli government will provide some of the needed funds.
The government decided to transfer $4 million and the Jewish Agency has committed to matching that amount. It is just a matter of time before another attack takes place, and we feel completely exposed and lacking the necessary defense, say some officials from Jewish communities. We need cameras, bulletproof windows, special locks and walls, and fences to prevent attacks. We also want guard posts and alarm systems, they say. The demands come after a rise in anti-Semitic incidents that have claimed dozens of lives in the United States and in Europe. The Jewish Agency Fund for Security Assistance provided for security at the German synagogue attacked last month, where the reinforced door prevented the assailant from entering the premises and carrying out his murderous intentions. Failing to breach the synagogue door, the gunman opened fire on passers-by, killing 2. There are 50 Jewish establishments in 24 countries whose requests for security funding are currently being processed by the Jewish Agency, but many more communities will require assistance by the end of 2020. Half of the money the Jewish Agency Fund has been able to provide communities in the 7 years of its existence comes from Jewish philanthropists such as Michael Friedman, who said he was proud to assist Jews around the world. Still, I am very concerned that in 2019, Jews do not feel safe even in the center of the most liberal and developed cities, he said. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the Jewish Agency Board of Trustees last week that in order to ensure the safety of Jews around the world, Israel's safety must be guaranteed. The Jewish state has a responsibility towards all Jews around the world, and the government has allotted funds to protect against the threat of violent anti-Semitism, he said.
Israel is the timepiece we should watch out for in these last days. By looking at what is happening in and around Israel, we will know at what time we are in. All these show that we are living in the crucial hour in the last days.
What is mentioned in the Bible that are going to take place in the end time or taking place in our lifetime? All these changes in the nation of Israel shows us that indeed we are living in the last days. Lord Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Thank you for watching this episode, and don't forget to tune into Science Lab next time.
Continue watching Science Lab in English as well as in Tamil. Send us photos, videos, news and YouTube links which are worth sharing, and also send us your feedbacks to our email address sciencelab@angeltv.org. Suppose if you have missed any of the episodes, do not worry, you can watch it again and again in our Science Lab YouTube page. But do not forget to like, share and comment on the video.
Ask your friends and relatives to watch Science Lab so that they will get to know that we are living in the last days. Remember, signs are happening because Lord Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Maranatha.